Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to another live chat. I'm Tia Solsen, and I'm here again with Linnea. Um, we've not been doing that many live chats in recent weeks. We've been keeping pretty busy actually with the new tea. There's been a lot of tea coming in.
Lots of tea to pack.
We had a lot of tea to pack, so we also had a lot of tea to taste. We've been busy with our tea club. There's been a whole lot of things that we've been doing, and we just haven't been able to come online and sit down and have a chat as we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So glad to be here again. Glad to see everyone again. Let's also see if we can get some comments. We can get some viewers already. Leave some comments if you like.
Yes,
Always happy
please.
to interact.
Mm-hmm.
As I was saying, we have been getting a lot of new, fresh harvest teas in, the teas from 2022. They're quite unique. They're pretty powerful. I'm feeling a lot of energy from them, and they're definitely going to be interesting teas to explore over the coming weeks, months, as they age, as they settle down. Because
Mm-hmm.
for certain reasons, as we probably are going to be discussing a little bit later on,
Mm-hmm.
they are not completely opening up just yet. They are quite, how should I say, introverted. And yeah, a lot of their taste and flavor components, the real um, character of those teas is sort of internal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really coming out just yet. Only as you explore the tea and keep tasting it, keep interacting with it, it gradually starts to open up. So I think it's going to change a lot over the coming weeks and months. So this year's tea is definitely
Interesting.
something to recommend. Interesting, definitely. We've got a whole new assortment of 2022 teas. So if you're interested and you haven't had any of this year yet, or you're just looking for some more tea to add to your collection, then visit the Tea Crane and have a look at our new 2022 tea selection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one in particular, I think, is very interesting to compare to previous year's harvests, as we'll get into in a minute.
I've got, especially from the last, I'm drinking a lot of teas from last year too, and some of the teas that we still have on the web store are from previous years as well. Um, I think the more a tea ages, the more it kind of settles down, and its flavor and aroma profile gets more balanced, which which is pretty interesting. And it's also softer on the system, because these very young teas, they can be quite aggressive. They can have quite an impact on the stomach. It can be quite very powerful. So teas from last year are much milder and much calmer. So I like to switch between, and sometimes fresh tea is a bit too much, so I would go for last year's
Calmer.
harvest.
Last year's harvest. All
Mm.
right. Are we going to brew some tea?
Right.
Talk
Yes.
about what this tea is.
We have the Kasuga Sencha. This tea is, in fact, a tea that I've presented in this month's tea club.
Right.
So this month's tea club are tea club members. For if you didn't know yet, I'm running a tea club already for over 40 editions, I think. So since two years and a half, I've been exactly 4 years now. Yes, exactly 4 years. I've been running a tea club for which I always select two very interesting teas from places that only produce small amounts. So you've got places that don't have enough tea for me to supply them in the store or keep a good stock of them to sell them, but are very interesting for like tea lovers who are looking for something special. So I keep always looking for interesting teas. And this month also, because the new harvest is coming in and we've got a few teas on offer, I thought it'd be an interesting idea to do a comparison between this year's tea and last year's tea from the same field, from the same producer. So what I've done is I've included a packet of this year's first flush harvest of our Kasuga Sencha, which is one of the liquid jade series that we have, and the 2021, so last year's variant of that same tea. And I put a booklet around it. And so every month there are these tastings or sets of teas with a booklet in which I give more information about the tea or the producer or the region or something that needs to be shared. And that is the tea club that I've now been doing for 4 years. And if you're not on the tea club yet, there's a link in the description of this video, so you can go and have a look at the homepage and sign up for our tea club.
Yes, and there it's 2 full-size bags of tea. They're not just little samples. It's 30 to 50 grams usually.
Usually between 30 and 50. Most of the time, if they're special teas, it's around 30 grams of tea that I include.
Right.
Which will keep you,
Yeah.
well, for several brews.
Yeah, and very special teas too.
And we've done a tasting.
Yes.
So what has the tasting been about that we've done?
Right, so this one, like T.S. was saying, was a comparison of the same tea from this year and last year. And new teas from this year, well, normally new teas tend to be very full flavored, very rich, because the tea plants have had a chance to build up all the nutrients in those leaves over the winter, and they're all harvested in that first cultivating or harvesting, that first harvest. But this year we've had some kind of up and downs in the weather. So the weather would get very warm and then it would get very cold, and the tea plants would kind of stop supplying nutrients to those tea leaves. And as a result, the finished product is very light flavored. It's definitely very young. Feels like it hasn't quite finished developing yet in the flavor, but very powerful.
Yes, I would say it's kind of premature. It's somewhat subdued, but I can feel there's a lot of energy in it. It has a tremendous effect on my body, although there's not that much. Well, they're flavorful. I mean, the teas that we're getting, they're flavorful, but you have to be a bit more attentive in order to get through to what it is that they're expressing. And gradually, as they open up, over the past few weeks now, even, they have been changing. But so what we've done is we've compared the last year's Sencha from Kasuga with this year's Sencha from Kasuga. And what did we find out in between those two comparisons? Well, those two teas.
Well, Kasuga, what I liked about their teas is it has a kind of honey flavor, which is very good for me. I like the sweet ones very much. And in last year's harvest, that was very upfront. It was very pronounced, that honey flavor, and a little bit of vegetalness that you get in a Sencha normally. This year's, it was just very subdued, and that honey flavor was especially very hidden. If you were looking for it, if you tried last year's, or if you tried another of Kasuga's tea that has that same flavor, you can sort of see it, you can sort of detect it a little bit, but it is very subdued.
Yeah, Well, the honey flavor, especially, I think, is a type of sweetness. And what happens when teas age is that the sweetness becomes more pronounced.
Right. So
The bitterness and some of the more aggressive components, they kind of settle down, and the sweetness and the aromas and etc. they sort of come to the fore. And I think that's especially something that happens with this Kasuga Sencha, and that it has a lot of that honey-like sweetness producing tastes
as it ages.
as it ages.
If you will.
Yeah. Well, no, it has it internally, but gradually it becomes more expressed.
Right, right. Even in the new teas, you can taste it a little bit. So yeah, that was a very interesting experience.
What is special about our tea region, Kasuga?
All right, Kasuga is a high elevation region, so it's often called Japan's Machu Picchu because the scenery is similar. It's up in the mountains. You can see kind of the very mountainous region all around, which has a few pluses and minuses. Kasuga has been historically has been very well known for plants of all kinds because for one thing, the soil is very loose, so the plants can really grow their roots very deep, and they can get a lot of nutrients. And the climate is a little bit cooler, so it kind of pushes it kind of slows down the development, and it pushes back the first harvest season a little bit.
Kasuga was known as the producing region for medicinal herbs in the Edo period, and so it's basically Edo's pharmacy. From where everywhere in the country they supplied those medicinal herbs that were necessary for the doctors and everything.
Right.
And of course, tea is a medicinal plant as well. Tea has a lot of medicinal properties that we can benefit from, but only if we get genuine tea. So Kasuga is still adhering to that tradition in a certain way by now focusing on tea and producing a tea that is well seed grown. And also in the region, they don't use any pesticides. Some might use a little bit of fertilizer, but that is with this producer completely omitted as well. So it's a genuine tea in a region where the soil is basically rich with nutrients that it also sort of gathered from the interaction with medicinal herbs, which I would say it's not only a good region for growing medicinal plants, but it also has received a lot from medicinal plants, which enriches the soil, from which then again this tea is enriched again. And another thing that I get from this particular Kasuga Sencha is its herbacity. It has a lot of herbal notes. It's very herbal. And I feel that I would like to refer this back to the roots of Kasuga as
those medicinal herbs,
as the production area for those medicinal herbs. That we get that tradition through the tea as well, and we sort of still benefit from those well,
the history.
Yes, and beneficial components.
All right, let's try it.
Let's have a taste. Well, that honeyness is definitely there.
Yeah, I think I say this every time I try a tea that has a particular flavor, but it's impressive how, for example, a tea that has absolutely no honey in it can have a flavor that is very obviously and distinctly a honey flavor. Like other teas might have coconut, like we tried the other day.
Oh yeah.
Banana or other herbs, and of course they don't have any of those added in the finished drink or in the leaves.
Of course not.
But it's and it's like an immediate, like, this is honey, that's honey.
And do you get that in the herbacity that I was referring to in the lingering aftertaste? I think is especially prominent.
Yeah, very delicious.
So I'm getting a few comments here.
All right.
Hey, Dylan. I'll put some on the screen. Dylan says, I'm in California. We are in a drought. Are you guys in a drought too? If so, I imagine this would affect the yield taste. Well, luckily, most of the tea is harvested in spring, so before we get into the very harsh summer situation. And during the summer, it's mostly the farmers that suffer because they got to go out in the tea gardens and pull their weeds, as most do. Not all farmers do. If you know about Yamazaki Tokiya-san, then, or if you don't, go check out the video that I made about Tokiya-san, because his approach is, again, very interesting. But other farmers in this season have to
work out in the fields.
Work hard in the fields, pulling out the weeds. So that's a bit bothersome. On the other hand, I don't think we should really call it a drought. Japan is always very hot in summer,
but not very dry. It's very extremely humid.
It's very humid, and I think that's because we're an island, and so we're surrounded by a lot of water, and so the air also tends to be humid. I don't know really how this works, but I don't think we should speak of a drought really.
Yeah, we have had a kind of odd rainy season.
Did we have one?
Yeah, so we didn't really have we had a rainy season, which we had almost no rain during that rainy season, and then we started getting rain after the rainy season ended. I think that I might have heard that was due to a typhoon, maybe?
Yes.
Sure. Usually typhoon season isn't until later, but... Very strong color.
Well, Dylan mentioned that he was surprised by the color of the liquor, which is very bright, which it is. It's also very much due to me brewing it with off the boil hot water. So that also affects, of course, how strongly the liquor is going to come out. But it's very vibrant. It's very clear as well. And that's definitely a trait of the tea itself. And the fact that it's a little bit on the yellowish side, less on the green side, is also because this is a tea from last year's harvest. And so it has had some time to age. So, well, today we were planning to do a very short session, not to keep it too long. We still have a lot of work and a lot of things to do as well. But we're always happy to tune in with everyone and to give some updates and just talk about what we've been doing recently. This was a good opportunity to talk a bit about the Kasuga teas and the tea club that went out this month. I think we're going to be doing these talks about the tea club every month. So if you're interested in joining the tea club and then also listening to the talk, then I'd be happy to send you our tea selection every month. Go and have a look at the website. And for those who are interested in tea ceremony, as you might know or not know, I have the Tea Ceremony 101 online course, which the final version is going to go online very soon. And I'll also be announcing that here on Facebook, YouTube, other social platforms as well. So if you're looking forward to start learning tea ceremony with me, then look forward to the updates, and I'll also be happy to start instructing you in the very basic, very first steps of tea ceremony. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the finishing note?
I think we just about covered it. We also have the Instagram page for the tea club, if you are interested in seeing more about that. It's been fairly inactive recently, but we're going to start using it again.
So, yes, follow us on Instagram, ttc.tclub, one word. And
I look
of course,
forward
also
to-
the rest, the Tea Crane. Follow me, Tia Sosen. And I'm also doing a little bit of a different approach to matcha and to tea drinking in a sort of a side project of the Tea Crane, which focuses more on the the spiritual, the health benefits of tea drinking, which is called Natural Immunity, and tea written as
TEA.
the tea you drink, which is intended pun. Okie dokie.
All right, as always, we appreciate any comments, questions,
Let's
feedback.
have a look.
Either here in the comments or in our DMs, or comments on YouTube, etc.
Here is one question from Dylan. I see you have a brazen. Do you use this to heat tea or just to keep it warm? Is it this that you are referring to? Because if it is this, then there's a heating element. I could put charcoal in here. I could put some alcohol lamp in here. And this is basically to heat water. I'm not using it today because the sound of the kettle always makes a louder sound, and it interferes with the voice, and it's just not so good for online chats.
It's a nice ambience when we're not doing in chat, though.
Yes, it's a nice ambience when you're here with me at the table and then hear the sound of the water boiling in this kettle. It's got a very soothing sound.
Yes.
But this is basically only to boil the water, and then I would use that water to brew the tea in a teapot like this one over here. So I hope that solved your question.
That's not a good material for tea, right? Is it?
No, I would not recommend to brew tea in kettles that are supposed to be used for water,
Right.
especially iron kettles. Iron kettles you shouldn't use. There's another video on my YouTube channel as well. Just type in iron kettle. It's one of the most ridiculous videos I think I've ever made, but it brings the message across that you should not use an iron kettle to brew tea. This is a clay kettle, but it's got a lot of minerals in it, which has sort of the same purpose as iron. And if you boil your water in a kettle like this, then it's going to help soften the water and make the water more delicious, so that you can brew a more delicious tea. So
that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic, talking about kettles and.
Well, I think we did do a chat about that, didn't we?
I think we talked about teapots.
About water.
Oh, we did about water, yes. We
And
did
also
that for
about
sure.
teapots.
So
right,
I hope that that cleared it up a little bit. We're going to have to get going now. So thank you for, again, watching. Thank you for staying out through the session. And I hope to see everyone again very soon when we're doing these talks again. Probably on Fridays, maybe every 2 weeks, perhaps for now.
Japan time,
And I think we're still going to be announcing them on Instagram.
Right.
So if you want to stay updated on when our next chat is going to be, just follow us on the Tea Crane.
You can see our past tea chats on YouTube as well. If you would like to see, they're a little bit longer and more involved.
Indeed.
So, well, see you
thanks
next
for
time.
watching.
Thank you.
See you next time. Enjoy your tea.